Hello and welcome to the Avrum Rosensweig Show.
Welcome to one of the internet's best podcasts, where we dive deep into the lives of the extraordinary and fascinating people who leave an indelible mark on our world. Join us as we explore their captivating stories, remarkable achievements, and unique perspectives that shape history and inspire generations. Get ready to embark on a journey through the lives of inspiring people unlike any other.
Hello and welcome to the Avrum Rosensweig Show. My name is Avrum Rosensweig, and I am really happy, delighted to be with you here today. The essence of my show, what I'm trying to accomplish here, is to give humankind a big pat on the back. And the idea behind this is that there are cycles that we go through as creation. Sometimes those cycles are very positive cycles, and the world is happy-ish. And then there are other times where we feel that we're under siege for whatever reason. It could be COVID-19. It could be wars in the Middle East and around the world. I think right now it's a little bit bleak outside. And I would like very much over the next hour and throughout all of my interviews, in fact, for individuals who are watching and listening to be able to say, yeah, you know what? We have done an incredible job over the last 6,000 years or 17 billion years, whatever your predilection, to develop this world of ours. We've done some magnificent things. One of the areas that would be most positive to concentrate on is the area of sport. If you take a look back to 776 BCE, it was in that year that the ancient Olympic Games began in Olympia. There was something called the Olympic Truce. During the ancient Olympics, a truce known as the Ekageria was declared, halting all conflicts and wars between participating city-states to ensure safe travel for athletes and spectators. Only free men could compete in the beginning. Women began participating much later in 1900 at the Paris Games. The Berlin Games, as we all know, especially as Jews, was an environment that Adolf Hitler was using as propaganda. But guess what? American athlete Jesse Owen, an Afro-American, won 4 gold medals. Time went on. Women participation increased. There were certain boycotts throughout the Olympic history. And the individual who won the most medals of all time is our very own Michael Phelps. I say that as a Jew, an American swimmer who holds a record for the most Olympic gold medals with a total of 23. And that's achieved over 4 games from 2004 to 2016. Study the evolution of the Olympics, study the development of it right up until today, August 4th, 2024. It's magnificent with its pockmarks, with its problems. It's an incredible entity in the world, hosting more athletes and more staff and administration than any other entity throughout the world. One can only imagine what it takes to put something like that together. Now, we, the Jewish people, have something very comparable, and that is called the Maccabi Games. It is overseen by what's called the Maccabi World Union, and the CEO happens to be a very dear friend of mine. He's the former Consul General of Toronto in Western Canada, and his name is Amir Gissin. How are you, Amir?
Great to see you.
It is so nice to see you. I'm so happy to take this opportunity to tell my listeners, to remind them that when you were here in Toronto, you were here for 5 years, right? And your goal was to introduce the Jewish world, if you will, to our neighbors, right? To our host country, to open up the Jewish community so that people who did not know a Jew or had a negative thought about the Jewish people might be able to see, in fact, the beauty of the Bnei Israel and the beauty of Israel, Eretz Yisrael. It was a very beautiful time in the history of our city and in the history of the country. And I would argue that the cameras were on us because of the work that you were doing. and many, many countries around the world, I think, had a lot of pride in your development. So I would just want to thank you so much for that, Amir.
Thank you. You're putting on my shoulders too much responsibility. I wasn't on my own. You were doing a lot of work in that
Thank you.
space.
Thank you.
Others, yeah.
What are your memories of Toronto?
I love Toronto. I felt like home. It was very welcoming to me and my family. Uh, it should be said that to be a consul general of Israel in Toronto is not an easy task. And certainly, this is not a very ordinary life because of the security component. I have to admit it was very, very difficult. The sense of risk when your kids are being taken to school in a police car, that's not fun. There are a lot of limitations of how you can live, whether you're allowed to open the blinds in a certain time at a certain place, and so on and so forth. But I love the city. I love the people. I love the Jewish community. Um, I've been a diplomat for many years. I've been working in 4 continents, and I never met a community so united and so close to Israel as the community in Toronto. And I used to say to my colleagues in the foreign ministry that when I'm in Toronto, I feel like a nuclear submarine that lost connection to base.
Why is that?
Because the foreign ministry, like any foreign ministry, they care mainly about capital cities and they care mainly about the United States. So a city in Canada, which is not the place where the federal government sits, is less of an interest to the foreign ministry in Israel. So they didn't bother me too much. And I really had the chance to do a lot of activities with the greatest Jewish community that supported me in so many ways. And these years were really the time of my life in the sense that when I had an idea, I always managed to find the partners. I always managed to find the budget, and we let many things happen during those years. And I really feel that that was the prime of my professional career in the foreign ministry.
You know, I was born in Kitchener, Ontario. My father was the rabbi there. Did you go visit Kitchener when
Of
you were
course,
here?
yeah.
And he was a religious Jew. We had 5 siblings, 5 of us, and there were times where it was kind of dicey for my family. There were times where we had police protection. Um, I'm just curious, as an Israeli coming to the diaspora, you talked about the fears, you talked about the need for a lot of security. And I remember that when you walked through the door, it wasn't just you coming through the door, you had your bodyguards. Do you get used to that?
Yes, yes. The thing about Israel is, in general, uh, is that there are several characteristics which are really typical: flexibility, ingenuity, thinking on your feet. That obviously comes on the account of proper planning.
Mhm.
So it's a mix. But one thing is clear: when you going abroad as a diplomat, you're going to serve. And I have many colleagues that went to very difficult places. I was spoiled. My diplomatic career took me to Denmark,
Yes.
New Zealand, and then to Canada. So I, extremely spoiled. Um, but the security and the need to live in a certain way, which is less convenient than other people live their life, is part of the job. You know this is what's going to happen, and you make this choice, and you get used to it. Um, but I have to tell you that when I got back to Israel and took an early retirement from the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs, I got used to be a nobody, somebody that nobody knows very, very quickly
Mhm.
at
Yeah.
no time. I have to tell you that one of the things I was doing a lot in Toronto is public speaking. Uh, you heard me a few
Yes, I
times.
did many times.
I always try to make it short. I never spoke with notes. And in 5 years, I've made 1,000 public speakings.
Wow.
1,000. Yeah. When I came to Israel, it was 12 years ago. Until today, I spoke maybe 10 times.
Mhm.
I really didn't miss it. I didn't need it. Some people need it, they need to be heard.
Yes.
I don't. It was relevant for my job. I did it with love. But when I came back to Israel, uh, being anonymous is something I have to tell you I enjoy a lot. Only lately, when I took over the leadership with Maccabi World Union, then I came back into the world of public speaking and media. But I was very happy without it for a decade.
Yeah, I get it.
It's
I
fun.
get it. I retired from Via Hafta, the organization I started, and I found myself sitting on the couch many, many hours of the day reading a book. And the phone wouldn't ring. Nobody called for a speech. And I thought, this is good. This is good. As an Israeli, I mean, where were you born?
I was born in Rishon LeZion. I'm a sixth generation Israeli from one side and fourth generation Israeli from the other side. So in our home, as opposed to most Jewish homes, uh, there was no other language but Hebrew.
Mhm.
So I really feel very, very Israeli. I'm part of this place.
What does
From
that
the
mean? What does that mean to? What does that mean to feel Israeli?
um, when I walk the street, when I travel the roads, I feel it's mine. I feel royalty, a royalty of the land of Israel. My brother, who's a rabbi, um, got into genealogy, and he wanted to uh, identify um, um, our forefathers. So through the books of Chabad scholars, because Chabad has this thing about genealogy, he found a direct relation between us and the brother of the founder of Chabad, and through him, the Maharal from Prague, all the way to King David. So there are many people who claim that, I know, but at least by the books, I'm generation number 94
Wow.
to King David. So this is what I mean when I'm saying royalty. This is what I mean that I really feel that that's my home.
Is there a Torah aspect to your life?
No,
Has there ever been?
no, it's I'm full of respect. I'm tolerating every kind of Judaism. Um, I don't have any hate in me. Um, I love my brother. I love my ultra Orthodox family. They are a very, very large family. Um, but I look at Judaism as a culture, and I'm open to it. But the belief is not there. Um, there's much respect, but I believe in our responsibility for the way we run our life.
Do you
And I
do
don't
you
look,
sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, so yeah,
Do you believe in God?
no.
How is that to be an Israeli, be so central to what's going on and not have a God above you? What's that like?
I don't believe in God, but I believe in what is called Elohut. And I find it difficult to translate that. I know that there's something bigger than me. I know that the universe is not coincidental. I know that there is a system. I don't know to identify what runs the universe, but I'm full of respect for the way it is being run. But that does not translate into a belief that comes with a set of rules you need to follow,
Mhm.
other than the things you feel inside. I know it's a little bit philosophical. I was always the more of the doing type, not the philosophical type. I'm trying to have a reason for the things I do. Um, yep.
Do you ever pray?
Um, when I'm in shul, when I'm with others, when I read Kaddish, I always do it with a lot of kavana,
Mhm.
a strong meaning.
Mhm.
But I do not, and it doesn't matter which crisis I found myself in for the last many years, there were many of them. I do not look to something else or someone else to comfort me and help me. I find this fire in the inside.
What were your mother and dad like?
Um, my father was a truck driver
Mhm.
who later on became a technical manager of a family business of selling gas cylinders. In Israel, it's way more common than in Canada. You have that in most houses. And he was always a very hardworking man. He was also a sailor, part of the Israeli Navy. That was the part of his life that he loved the most. And when I finished the army at 22, I came to him and I told him I want to go to university. And he said at the time, Amir, even if you'll be a professor, you will still end up carrying those 12 kilo gas cylinders together with me here because this is yours. That's the family business. So why waste your time? Um, I have to say, he changed his mind as I went to school and had a bit of success and then joined the foreign ministry. But he was not educated, but a very unique man that left a very strong mark on me. Um, he knew what he wanted. He was the most honest person I ever met. Um, and he was somebody to look up to.
How was he unique?
Um, he was a big man, very handsome, very tall. Even when he was 85, I still looked like his young boy.
Yes.
Um, uh, by the way, he was an athlete, and he participated in the third Maccabi
Oh,
in
how interesting.
1950, and he won the gold medal in field hockey.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that in field hockey you have 11 players, so six of the Israeli team that won the finals over India, six of out of the 11 were Gissins. My father, his three brothers, and two cousins. So, first of all, being in Maccabi runs in the family for the last 75 years.
It would seem.
Yeah. But he, as I said, was very, very honest. When he was around 50, he had cancer, uh, bad cancer. And as a result, he had colostomy, which is instead of the regular way you let your stools out, he had a small pouch uh, on his belly. And this is so difficult for people that usually people who's got that do not leave home. And because of the smell and because you cannot control the time that your stools will go out. And my father, being a strong person like a rock and a proud person, just continued to live his life.
Mhm.
And that was so impressive at the time to the medical staff that worked with him that they actually asked him to come and talk and later on give lectures to people who had the same problem, to encourage them to continue to live their life even though it's embarrassing and it's smelly and sometimes there are punctures and your pouch falls and you get dirty, and still he did that
Mhm.
and helped many people. And at the age of 50, after being a very, very tough guy for many years, he actually changed. It's like cancer as turning point. And he began to help patients. He joined the management of the Israeli Cancer Society. And later on, he became, like after 3 years, he became the president of Israel Patient Society, a lobby group of patients that acted in Israel. He has become a very known interviewee in on TV news whenever there was a need to talk about health, because he was somebody who was very knowledgeable about health issues and about patients' rights in Israel. And the change he has made at 50, it's like a new life had started. Before that, he was focusing on his work and on his reserve duty in the Navy and on his family. And all of a sudden, he's become a beacon of light
Mhm.
for thousands of patients that actually he helped. So I looked at him with pride, and I still do. I started my public career, if you may say so, before he did. But whatever I did, he did more because he was really helping people. And that created for me a lot of interest in the Canadian health system, um, which I don't want to be critical. I'll just say that I don't think that in Canada you have lobby groups for patients
Right.
because the doctor lobby is too strong.
Yes, it is. That's very true. What was your father's name?
Meidad,
Medad.
yes. He had a twin brother, identical twin brother, by the name of Eldad, obviously, Eldad and Meidad,
Medad.
that passed away last week. As
I'm
long
sorry to
as
hear
he, yeah, as long as he was alive, because they were identical even at 88. As long as he was alive, I could have imagined that my father is
that. Yes.
sitting there. But now, it's a generation of giants that is leaving us. Um, that's always difficult.
Amir, what was your mother like?
My mother was, her kids were her world. Um, she gave us all the love that she could. She also was not educated, but she was always there, part of the parents' committee, but like making sure her kids are really getting everything they need. Um, so it was a house without education or without sophistication, but with a lot of love
Mhm.
and a lot of belief in the kids, in their ability to grow and to become good people. And I think they did a good job.
I think so too. How many siblings do you have?
I have one older brother. He's a rabbi. He became religious many years ago during his army service, and today he is quite a well-known storyteller of the stories of Rabbi Nachman of Breslov.
Oh, he's a Breslover. Okay.
Yes, he's got 10 kids, already around 30 grandkids. And I have a younger brother who's younger than me, but we always look up to him because between me and my brother, he's the mature one. So he's in high tech, and we're very close. We don't meet as much as we want, but we're very close. And um, my family lost many family members during Israel's wars. We lost an uncle, we lost a cousin, uh, we lost a second cousin. My father lost another cousin. Um, so um, that is really present in our life. Um, it was present in the house I grew up in because you had the photos, and every Yom Zikaron you need to split between the different military graveyards. And I think this is also something which relates to my Israeli identity. Um, the fact that, like many other families, my family contributed more than just being citizens.
What was your mother's name and your father's name?
My mother's name was Dalia.
Right, and your father, you said it
Meidad,
was
yes.
Nina. When you meet up with your religious brother, has anything changed between the two of you?
Yes, of course. When he became religious, I was only 15, and we were not that close. Um, he's got his own life, I got mine. So I actually grew up um, with him going through that process. And there were years where he was still very enthusiastic to try and bring me closer to him. Um, so at the time, when I was 23, I was a Jewish agency emissary, shaliach, in London. And he came to visit me in London with one goal, to give it the last chance of bringing me closer to Judaism. So, to cut a long story short, after 2 weeks, I did not become religious. But before he left, I told him, Ofer, I heard that was in 87, many years ago. So I told him, I heard that there is something new, like a personal computer, PC. I think it will work well for you. So I gave him, he was broke at the time. I gave him some money and told him, buy yourself a computer. And he did it. And to cut a long story short, after 4 years, he sold the first website that was actually sold in Israel.
Really?
He has become a genius programmer, and he built uh,
Wow.
a website in Israel called Tapuz, which was one of the most leading websites in Israel. And he sold it for $500,000. The first Israeli exit on a website. So I learned something from this story that sometimes they say in Hebrew, מתוך שלא לשמה בא לשמה.
Right, right.
So I didn't become religious, but he has become a computer programmer. So
Can you translate that for us?
um, the translation is that when you want to do something good, it doesn't matter how you get there.
Yes. Did he pay you back the money you loaned him? You gave him?
No, that was a present. That was a present.
When I was working with United Jewish Appeal, of which I was for 7 years, one of the jobs that I had was to oversee a trip for the former Prime Minister of Israel, Yitzhak Shamir. And that was a daunting task. His people checked him into a hotel downtown in Toronto, where apparently there were some Saudi sheikhs who were staying there. And I made phone calls to Montreal, speaking to his people to determine whether that was the best course of action. Would he like to change? Some funny stuff happened, but ultimately he did. And I remember when he came here, he spoke at Beth Tikva Synagogue, I believe. It held about 1,000 people. And I knew all the counterterrorism people in the room, the RCMP, the OPP, the municipal police force, and so on. And for me, it was quite scary to know who was carrying guns in that room and what that meant. And I went to dinner with Mr. Shamir and his wife, and we had a good time. He did not talk very much. I just remember being in awe of this man, this little man, sitting in front of me and knowing the responsibilities that he had had. And I often wondered to myself, how do men of such greatness, whatever you think about his politics, how do they carry that? Now, you worked in the PMO's office, the Prime Minister's office. You were also the Chief of Staff to the Minister of Diaspora Affairs. Being up close to these individuals, what was that like for you? What level of respect did you have for them? You know, they say sometimes when you get too close to your heroes, the light kind of shuts off. Was that the case? Or did they were you in awe of who they were and what they did?
It's a difficult question, but as I'm not a government official anymore, I can tell the truth.
And that's why I asked.
Yeah, I don't need to be nice. To begin with, I was disillusioned with politicians. I served in my 25 years in the Israeli Foreign Ministry. I served 7 prime ministers and 9 foreign ministers. All of them have good qualities, bad qualities. Many of them were leaders, but small people. And that was disappointing. The amount of time spent on petty things was very, very disappointing. I reminded myself that I would not in a million years want to be in their shoes. So I would say that probably to become a leader and to take this responsibility, you need certain characteristics which do not come with being nice. I see myself as a nice person. I don't think I would survive in politics. I don't have the urge to be the Israeli prime minister or a minister. And even though I saw many of them in times where they were not impressive or they were not at their best, still, I think the fact that they choose to take this responsibility is something to be commended. But to your question, yes, when you come closer to your leaders, you lose a lot of respect. Um, your view of them become way more nuanced, um, because you see the good and the bad.
Who were some of the prime ministers you worked for?
I worked with Netanyahu. I was his assistant foreign policy advisor. I worked with Prime Minister Barak. I work at the foreign ministry, and I had the chance to work a little bit with Prime Minister Olmert.
Mhm. Is Netanyahu the same today as he was then?
No, he's a different person.
How is he different?
Um, I think he is less caring about um, his environment. I think he is less. Um, no, I'll define it differently. When I was working with him, he was very careful and cautious, as opposed to Ehud Barak, who was courageous to a level that sometimes was irresponsible. And as a diplomat, I preferred the careful approach.
Mhm.
Um, with the years, I think Netanyahu freed himself of being careful. Um, and certainly today, he's not who he used to be.
You also worked with the Minister of Diaspora Affairs. Which minister was that?
That was Rabbi Melchior, Michael Melchior, from the Meimad party,
Yes.
um, a very unique breed of Israelis who are observant on one hand, but humanitarians on the other hand. The left wing among the uh, the religious people in Israel. It's not a large group. It's a very unique group. I felt very close to that group from the secular side, and I felt the voice of this group that was heard at the time of the Barak government was not heard again um, since then.
Were you with Barak for the peace talks?
I was with Rabbi Melchior at the peace talks. I wasn't in the room. I was just in a mission to um, go to different places um during Camp David and present Israel's position, mainly in LA and the area. Um, but at the time, during the Oslo Accords time,
Yeah.
um, I was really hopeful that something good will happen. And I think that comparing to others, uh, the disillusion came to me relatively late because I'm an optimist.
Yes.
So I thought that I know better, um, and apparently I did not know better. But I still believe that there isn't any other option but to find a way to separate ourselves from the Palestinians and establish a coexistence. And it doesn't matter which word you call it, peace or long truce. And it doesn't matter what will be the entity that they will get as long as they'll have the chance to run their own life. I think it's important I think that's the only historic solution, because the choice for that, or the substitute for that, is a never-ending war. And I don't want to live in a never-ending war, and I don't want my kids and my grandkids to live in such environment. And therefore, even if today it looks very far and maybe impossible to achieve, I believe it is impossible. It is possible with time, um, and I hope to see it while I'm around.
Amen. Where were you on October 7th?
Um, I was at home. I woke up very early. I didn't understand what was happening. When I saw the first photos, I understood that this is something of a different scope, something we never experienced. Um, I, like many others, did not believe that the army is not there and it will not take control on the event very quickly. I think this is what most Israelis couldn't believe, that the army was not there, that we actually were outnumbered. Um, I By the evening, I understood the scope. I already understood what happened physically um, on the ground. I did not understand the implications, and I have to admit that, and I wish that other people will admit that as well. With all my experience, with over 30 years of government service and dealing with foreign relationship and with security, um, I was not able for the last 10 months to predict what's coming next. And I think most people, including those who speak and give their views on TV channels and in public speakings, they don't know anything. It's all either, uh, stating the truths of the past, or changing opinions by the day. But I think that what we're experiencing right now, what we've experienced since October 7th, is a new reality, very difficult to predict. Um, I think we need to cope with the new era. We were looking the other ways. We did not believe, not the people of Israel and not the Jews in the diaspora. We would not believe that such a time will return where uh, unbelievable cruelty and violence will actually translate not into understanding and support of what we went through, but on the contrary, it will actually release the demons.
Yes.
Now, when I was in Toronto and during my years in the service, because most of my years of work was around what we called hasbara, public diplomacy. I was the deputy spokesman for the foreign ministry. I was the director of public diplomacy. Um, we always felt that the issue of anti-Semitism is being exaggerated. There were years where people were talking about anti-Semitism all over the world, and we ask ourselves, how many people died this year because of anti-Semitism all over the world? And the answer was zero. So sometimes we felt, I'm saying we, it's like me and some of my colleagues in the foreign ministry, that the flag of anti Semitism is being raised for fundraising. So I know it's a bit extreme, but at the time we felt that Israel and the Jewish people have bigger problems than anti Semitism. And it was like that for many years. But I was wrong with that as well, because the last thing I could think of is after October 7th, that will actually create a situation where anti Semitism will be normalized.
Mhm.
And you know, Avrum, that takes me back to the years we spent together trying to talk to the Jewish community to open up to other communities. And I was trying not just to show the other ethnic groups of Toronto the uniqueness of the Jewish community and the beauty of Judaism. I was talking about something totally different. I was trying to convince the Jewish community that they have an asset that they can share without missing anything. The Jewish community in Toronto is the most organized, uh, well funded uh, community in the city with the best community institutions. There's a lot of knowledge there. In Toronto, when we were working together 15 years ago, 12 years ago, there were many young communities that came to Toronto and had no tradition of building a community, of uh, funding their own institutions, of getting together, of building religious and educational institutions within the community. And the Jewish community, which did not fight with them over resources, the Somali community or the Ethiopian community or the Azeri community did not go to the same people to fundraise. So there was no competition. And the idea was not to give resources that the Jewish community needed to other communities, but to give them knowledge, to send teachers, social workers, and community organizers from the Jewish community that will do mentorship with the young communities without asking anything in return. I think that concept is still relevant today, 15 years after. It is still needed. Had we done that 15 years ago, I would think that the Jewish community today would not be standing by itself. And I have to admit that that's one of the um, sense of failure that I took with me from my time in Toronto. I was able to do many things. I was very proud what I've done with the things I've done, but the lack of ability to convince the Jewish community to open up and to support other communities um, is one of the things I will take with me that could have been done better. And with what's happening right now in the streets in Toronto and in Canada in general, um, I think we could have been today in a different place.
Amir, I've seen some of the protests here in Toronto and the placards that go along with them, and some of them read Jewish children back to the ovens, death to the Jews, the vile of vilest possible epitaph. And I too have a similar feeling that you have. I had seen anti Semitism before. I had experienced anti Semitism growing up in Kitchener, being the rabbi's son. It used to be called Little Berlin, but certainly not to the level that we see it today. It's rampant and it's proliferating. Why are we hated so much, Amir?
The truth is, I don't know. Um, the study of anti Semitism, historic anti Semitism, modern anti Semitism, uh, offers many answers to that. Um, But I don't feel I have the full answer. I think that um, today anti Semitism is being mixed with being anti Israel. Israel is the opposite of the hated Jew, which was the weaker part of society. Israel represents 180 degrees from that. A strong country, never apologize, very successful at what it does, um, developed a very strong economy and world leadership in high tech and innovation, and still um, in the Middle East, uh, being the military force that is responsible for the life of the Palestinians, not in the best uh, or uh, way I would like to see it happening. And I think that there are very strong forces in the world that find it convenient to create coalitions among themselves by going against Israel because anti Semitism and anti Israelism is the lowest common denominator
Mhm.
that you can find among very different groups that regularly will fight each other, like fundamentalistic Islam and the extreme left have nothing in common apart from uh, Jewish hatred and Israel hatred. This red green coalition is very strong. At the era of social networks and digital influence, they have developed expertise that we were not smart enough to match. And today, with the rise of the ability to reach people directly without any educated mediation that the media used to be, then the deterioration towards um, um, I lost the word. Um,
Use another word.
yeah, so deterioration towards populism is very easy, very common. We see what's happening in many countries all over the world. Um, Everybody's bitter, nobody's happy, and there are those leaders that will look for the scapegoat. And we have always been, and we certainly right now are elegantly positioned as the scapegoat to a level that to support Israel and to speak for Israel and to tell the truth about what's happening, during October 7th and what's happening right now in the Middle East, um, now requires courage. And those who speak the truth are considered courageous, and they pay a price for it. Um, I think the government of Israel, for many years, did not do enough and did not build the right coalitions to cope with the amount of money and work and manpower that goes into digital campaigns that are total fake, done by bots, that done um, everywhere. By the way, today it was exposed that there is a whole campaign in Canada, um, which is a pro Palestinian campaign, and it is totally funded by Iran. So there are forces like Russia, like Iran, like China, like some of the Gulf states. Um, a lot of capital is being invested in campaigns that wants to create hate for Israel, hate for the Jews, instability, and it's all part of the effort to destabilize the Western world. Um, and they're successful because it reaches young people and affect them. And we have to do something about it. Have to.
Will Israel be okay?
I'm an optimist, but for the first time in my life, I'm not sure because I don't know what is okay. I know that Israel can manage with its enemies. We are very, very strong, very strong. Despite what happened on October 7th, um, that was a very, very painful wake up call. I think militarily, and when we're looking at the countries around us, they cannot ruin Israel. We can only do it ourselves. And the current situation in Israel um, is very scary. The lack of government, um, the constant attack on our democratic institutions, um, all that lead me to a very, very deep worry about the future of this country. I think that many people who are liberal in nature might feel that Israel has changed its face and they cannot find themselves um, or identified with the country anymore. And people today has options. And I think that this quiet uh, move started. I think that many people leaves Israel right now. From those who pay taxes and work hard and go to the reserve service. These are the people who are the echelon of this country, those who hold the country together. And if they will give up on Israel and will leave, um, I don't know what will happen to Israel. I'm sure that Israel will become weaker, less educated, less of a democracy, less liberal, and that scares me. I never felt this way before.
Would you ever
Um,
leave?
Today, the answer is no. But where I am right now, comparing to where I was a year ago, um, I'm way more worried about the future of Israel than I was ever in my life. Um, I can promise you one thing. Um, I'm going to fight.
Yes.
We're going to fight for our country.
Yes.
Me, my generations, the younger generation, we're not giving up on the miracle which exists here, because it is a miracle. But it is a miracle done by people. And even though this place is today endangered um, and by politicians who use our democratic system to erode it, um, we can still go out, we can demonstrate, we can talk, we can convince. We will not let this country go down the drain. The main problem is internal. It's on us to solve it, and we
Um,
will.
yeah, I think so too. I think so too. Amir, you have this crazy ass job now. It's not driving a truck like your dad. You are the CEO of the Maccabi World Union. Now that's a really really big piece. Essentially, just a little bit about Maccabi. Most people know about it. The Maccabi Games. It's an umbrella. The union is an umbrella body for six Maccabi confederations, 70 territorial organizations worldwide. Maccabi Australia, Asia, Europe, Israel, Latin America, North America, South America, etc. And essentially, your mission statement is to bring as many Jewish athletes, if you will, to Israel from all over the world, and to customize them with with Eretz Yisrael, who we are in Israel, the country, to learn from it, to be educated there, and of course to compete. In 2022, over 10,000 athletes came to Israel. I'm going to guess most of them were Jewish, if not all.
No,
Who
oh,
they're all Jewish, and they competed in 42 sports. Man alive, what a huge job! Why did you take this gig?
I grew up in the Maccabi movement. As a matter of fact, I joined the movement 50 years ago as a
Yeah,
kid.
yeah,
And in Maccabi, you could have done two things. One is to be an athlete, which I was. I played European handball. And you could join the youth movement, Maccabi Tzair, Young Maccabi. And I did that as well. So the sports I left quite early when I was 18. I wasn't that good.
yeah.
But I stayed with the youth movement and I did everything there. I was their emissary in London, Britain, and I was the CEO of the movement. Then I went to the foreign ministry, took a break from Maccabi for 25 years, short break.
Yes.
After I took early retirement from the foreign ministry, I came back to the movement as a lay leader. And uh, these years I was doing business, especially in the area of place branding, which is my expertise, and influencer platforms over the internet. But then during the Corona years, like many other people, I felt that I need to reinvent myself because I was not enjoying business life. And so, as the previous CEO of Maccabi World Union was planning to retire, I was asked to take his place, and I did. I'm very happy for it. I'm enjoying what I do. I think I touch many people. What people do not know is that Maccabi World Union is the largest Jewish organization in the world,
Hmm.
with over 450,000 members in 70 countries. Everywhere on the globe where Jews do sports, it's under the umbrella of Maccabi. Now, the games we run, by the way, it is called the Maccabiya Games.
Maccabi Games.
Yeah, the Maccabiya is the second largest sporting event in the world, second only to the Olympics that you so beautifully describe. And the truth of the matter is that because of different reasons, including changing some rules for the juniors, there is a good chance that, with God's help, if everything will go correctly, the next Maccabiya will be bigger than the Paris Olympics. We
Wow.
will have more athletes in the next Maccabiya next summer, July 2025, than the Paris Olympics. So in Israel, you will have the largest sporting event in the world. And by the way, just for people to know, with 3% of the budget. Um, we have a very good team. Most of them have been doing this for many years. Every 4 years, we have the Maccabi in Israel. The next Maccabi is very special because something has happened to our world during last year. Israelis care much more about diaspora Jewry. And in diaspora Jewry, those who were a little bit far or disconnected to Israel feel today a stronger connection. So we see our role in Maccabi World Union as the great unifier, as those who bring together Israel and the diaspora. That's our mission statement, that's our role, this is what we're trying to do, and this is why the tagline of the next Maccabi is more than ever. More than ever. This is not the most moving Maccabi, this is not the most important Maccabi, but it is the most needed Maccabi in history because both the Israelis and diaspora Jewry need to come together.
Yes.
We hope to see next year, next summer in Israel, 500,000 Jews coming to visit after this summer where nobody can come because of the war. But all those Jews that will come from all over the world into Israel, the Maccabi will be the one event that will bring everybody together. And for me, that's a dream come true to be able to work towards something which is for me the most important, and that is to bring the Jewish people together.
It's most interesting when you take a look at the history of the Maccabi World Union. Theodor Herzl spoke of the need to reclaim the physical Jew. At the Second Zionist Conference in 1898, Herzl's chief lieutenant, Max Nordau, called for the need to develop what he termed muscular Judaism.
Mhm.
And Nordau contributed greatly to the idea of the new Jew, a total transformation of the frightened Jew of the ghetto. I have to tell you, Amir, this really touched me when I read this because I am a pachdan. I'm a fraidy cat. I'm not a courageous person, not in many ways. And I get scared when there are our enemies in front of us. I really do. It frightens me a lot. And I see a lot of my friends who are just not equipped to fight. But the idea of the muscular Jew, that really sat very comfortably with me because I always thought how incumbent it should be upon the Jewish world to train our Jewish children to become physically fit, to be athletes if they want to, but also how to defend themselves, perhaps martial arts. What's your take on the muscular Jew?
I always wanted to be one, and I think I did. But you shared a story. Let me share with you another story.
Yes, please.
We all remember what has influenced Theodor Herzl to come forward with this political plan for the Jewish people, and that was the Dreyfus Affair.
Mhm.
So the Dreyfus Affair um, can be defined through, like most events in history, by one photo that we don't have. We don't have this photo, but there's one image, and that is the ceremony in the French army camp where Dreyfus' commander broke his sword. That was the moment many people feel that was the birth of modern anti Semitism. That was in January 1985. By a divine intervention, the same week,
Sorry, it's 1895.
1895, on the same week, 2 days after that, the first Jewish sport club was established. And it was a Maccabi club. It was called Maccabi Constantinople, which is Istanbul of today.
Yeah.
And it was a fencing club. So one sword was broken, and another sword that represents the new Jew started its journey. And the first sword from 130 something years ago is in our museum, the International Jewish Sport Museum, in uh, our home, the Maccabi village in Ramat Gan in Israel. And the sword is there. And it's one thing that I tell you that in our pleasant conversation, but for the people that come to the museum and I show them around and I begin the tour by telling this story and showing them with their own eyes the sword from 100 to 30 years ago
Beautiful
that
story.
showed that began the journey of Jewish sports.
Some of the things that Maccabi Sports has accomplished would include promoting inclusivity, supporting young talent, community engagement, most definitely, fostering cultural exchange, championing health and wellness, celebrating diversity, and environmental responsibility. You're a very innovative fellow. You're always thinking about possibilities. You've been with Maccabi as a CEO for a couple of years now. What have you brought to the organization, Amir?
Um, I think more than other things, I brought a new approach um, regarding the way we look at North America. Um, our movement is very strong in Israel. It's very strong in Latin America, and it's relatively strong in Europe because Europe is not that strong. But within the communities of Europe, Maccabi is very active. In North America, the story is different. Maccabi World Union is probably the best kept secret. The reason is that in North America, we have a sister organization, which is the JCC Association. We've been partnering with the JCC for over 40 years now on the leading event that they have, which is the JCC Maccabi Games. The JCC Maccabi Games are a smaller version of the Maccabiya for youngsters that runs every year in 2 or 3 Jewish communities in North America, in both the US and Canada. And the role of Maccabi World Union in the JCC Maccabi Games is everything connected to Israel and everything connected to educational programs. We send specially trained emissaries to each community that have the games, so they will be responsible for the educational program. That's my contribution uh, to the partnership, in the sense that we're not looking to compete with the JCC Association. We're looking to enrich the experience which they offer their membership. And we've become way more active in North America going forward to develop this partnership. And I'll just give you one example. One of the beautiful things that the Jewish community in North America created is summer camps,
Mhm.
overnight day camps. And in every camp, and we're talking about hundreds of camps, uh, for profit, non for profit, run by the JCCA, run by the youth movements, many kinds, hundreds, that every year host hundreds of thousands of young Jewish kids that will tell later on that that camp experience shaped their lives. And in every camp, the climax day is the day where they do sport competition. And how would they call that? How would they call this day? The Maccabi Games or the Maccabiya Day. And we in Maccabi World Union had nothing to do with it. I changed that. I actually, instead of suing them,
You're using
We
my
joined.
name. Yeah.
So what we did is we started this year. It just ended this week. A whole month of a large pilot that touched over 1,000 kids in 7 different camps, where we actually brought the Maccabi experience to the summer camp. We brought, first of all, when they got medals, it wasn't medal that was bought in the dollar store. That was the official Maccabi medal. And to each camp, we sent a caravan of athletes, one from Israel, one from the US or Canada, and one from Latin America, to let the kids understand that Maccabi is a global movement where all Jews come together. And those athletes told their stories. They're all participants in the Maccabi. So they could, and some of them were medalists. So they could tell their story. They could talk about Israel. They could talk about the fact that Jews comes together through sports. The responses are great. We just finished the pilot, and next year we want to do it not in 7 camps, but in 70, and then in 300. That's the way I would like to influence young American, Canadian, Jewish kids that will understand that when they're going to camp and when they do sport, they belong to something way bigger than them. The Maccabi movement, the place where Jews do sports, the place where Jews, doesn't matter where they live, they connect to other communities and to Israel. That's a vision to wake up in the morning for.
It's beautiful. Well done. Well done. Yeshakoach, like they say, like your brother would say.
Yeah.
Tell me something. Life is very, very challenging. You have somewhat of an existential nature to you. I remember our talks. When you lie down at night and you're lying in the dark and you're thinking about Maccabi, you're thinking about what you've done on behalf of the foreign ministry, the Jewish people, the state of Israel. Do you feel as though you've done something in your life?
Yes, but I always look forward. I don't feel I've done enough. And as a matter of fact, I'm planning to do more. I spent 25 years uh, serving my country within the government service. Then I took 10 years to engage with the business world. I wasn't a failure, but I didn't enjoy it. Now I came back to the place I love the most, and that is community leadership. As a matter of fact, when I was Consul General, I was less of a diplomat and more of a community leader. I think we discussed that many times.
Yes.
I saw there was a responsibility. I had a responsibility towards the Jewish community. I was not just representing my country. I was trying to offer a way, a direction to the Jewish community. Um, but now I feel that as the CEO of the largest Jewish organization, I have a responsibility not just for the members of Maccabi, but for the whole of the Jewish world. And I believe in coalition building. That's the way I do things. I build coalitions. And I believe that I'm now in the position within Maccabi World Union that I can bring to the table many organizations and people and organs that can represent better the Jewish people and the state of Israel, that can focus not on uh, politics and fake fights between left and right, but rather running a process of bringing Jewish people together in order to fight our war against those who are trying to make us weaker and to isolate us. Um, I always felt that if somebody is trying to single you out, you need to make friends. That was my philosophy.
Mhm.
Today, I feel that first and foremost, we need to make friends within are Jewish people because we grow so separate from one another. So I would like to take Maccabi, which is not a political organization, where everybody is welcome. Because the people that cheer for Maccabi Tel Aviv or in Israel or participate in the Maccabiya, nobody check the size of their kippah and who they vote for. Um, so we have a chance of bringing together people and adding more organizations into a coalition that will be able to stand against those who wants to harm us. And this is a coalition that should have activists, that should have philanthropists, and that should have the Israeli government. And I believe that in Maccabi, we're very well placed to make this call and to bring people in. I don't want to lead it. I don't need to be the leader. I want to enable it. I want that to happen. I want to create the atmosphere that will be able to bring people together. Not in a concentrated way, not in an orchestrated way, in a way that everybody will be able to do their own things and together make a difference. And that's my next goal. As the CEO of Maccabi World Union, this is where I'm going. And I really hope that very soon we'll have a chance to talk again, where I'll be able to tell you about achievements at that front as well.
Yeah, I look forward to that as well. Just a couple more questions. You have a few more minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So one question I have is, while you speak, I'm thinking about you at the table. And I'm thinking about you at the head of the table. And I've seen you at the head of the table before. They say that Israel has 8 million presidents or prime ministers, right? Is it a challenge for you? Do you know how to change a narrative of an organization that's been around for decades? Are you proficient at that, or is like just a constant struggle?
I came to an organization which had the same CEO for 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
You would assume that any organization, certainly Jewish organization, who had the same CEO for 30 years will go through a very significant crisis when the CEO is changing. The transformation was smooth because the most important thing is to let everybody who holds a role in this organization, all the people that are the organization, to feel that they are being appreciated, that they're not going to, that nobody is going to take anything from them, and that a new spirit of enthusiasm, new ideas that will help them develop and flourish is going to be introduced. This is what I tried to do. It worked for me. It worked for the organization. So I believe in the ability of transformation. I think it should be done in a way that people will feel that they're being seen. And it's not difficult. It's really not difficult. You can make changes, sometimes even drastic changes, but as long as you keep your people interested, engaged, and happy, there's no reason why such transformation will not succeed.
Last question. You should live a long life, a long and healthy life, you and your family. As you get closer to the Moshav Zkenim years, senior homes, metaphorically or otherwise, is there something on your bucket list, the big thing that you want to accomplish?
I want to be healthy.
Amen.
I remember um, in Toronto, I become 40. and many people sent me uh, um, their best wishes.
Yes.
But I remember the one I got from you.
Hope for me.
You wrote to me, Amir, Mazal Tov, you're now like your Zayde.
Sounds like me.
So yeah, so I remember that. Um, I want to feel that I managed to bring large portions of the Jewish people together. That's my goal. That's what I want to see happening. The same way that I wanted to see the community in Toronto reaching out. I would like to see uh, a process which is bigger than me starting. Then I'll be able to enjoy my retirement.
Very good. Very
That's
good.
my goal.
Amir, I want to thank you so much for doing this. I enjoyed it so much. I've always enjoyed my time with you. And you're one of those unique Jews who really has a sense of the Jewish people within the world. And you and I share that. I think that via Hafta, the organization I started and ran for 20 years, is indicative of that and still is. And I'm very proud that when our vans go out into the streets of Toronto and we're helping the homeless and the impoverished, that we're very clearly Jewish. And we've had some problems because of it. But I also like to think that those vans and those volunteers and staff have acted as a Kiddush Hashem, as a holy thing, and have perhaps made life a little bit easier for our people. So, kol hakavod to you. Keep spreading the word. I'm really excited for you. And I really hope that we can do a second interview perhaps as we get closer to the next Maccabi Games, which is 2025 July, God willing. Folks, thank you so much for listening. As I always ask people, listen closely to these interviews, watch them and watch them again, and take away from them what an individual can do with their lives when they really hit their zone, when they're really, really focused on who they are and what they can accomplish. Like our guest today, Amir. Take that away and run with it and make it great. And you will find that your life will be so much more beautiful. The lives of our people will be stronger. And the world in which we live will just be more connected and unified. So thank you very much. I look forward to being with you again. Amir, God bless you and your family and
Thank you.
Eretz Yisrael. And we shall see